that remind us of the way we were. Our world. It's about time. Tonight, Between the Lines in the summer of 1972. Here are Linda Ellerby and Ray Gandolf.
For the next hour, think of your television set as a time machine.
Tonight we go to a time when the young are trying to tell us something, if only they and we knew what it is.
Welcome to our world. Unbutton something. It's summer, 1972. Think of that summer as a novel, a mystery maybe. So who done it? Well, you'll have to read between the lines for the answer, but after all, that's where some of the best stuff gets written. For a clue, look for words starting with the letter M, like McGovern, Millhouse, Ms., Miami, MASH, Munich, and Mick.
Did you know that there was something of a religious explosion amongst the young in the summer of '72? I didn't. Maybe you had to be there. Well, we're going to take you there, but first we're going on a tour with some aging youngsters who had been making a joyful noise, or some kind of noise, for a long time. That summer, they got a new opening act.
For 8 weeks in 30 cities at 50 concerts before a total of 750,000 people, 5 Englishmen set out to prove that after 10 years, the Rolling Stones were still the best rock and roll band in the world.
There was nothing like a Rolling Stones concert. It really drew out the people who were most passionate about rock and roll. I decided I wanted to see the Rolling Stones, not once, but every time they played the United States.
And Stones fan Charlie Crespo did just that.
This was shortly after the summers of love, the summers of peace, flowers, understanding. There was a great sentiment of that in the concerts. You could feel that just from the people around you.
At the same time, thousands of young people were insisting rock and roll was the reality. Others saw it as so much dream soup. They were the ones rolling, not rocking, into Dallas that summer, and they had no sympathy for the devil. They called it Explo 72, a spiritual explosion.
Today, what is needed among American young people is the Christian mind, the mind of Christ.
The Reverend Billy Graham, a warm-up act only for the Lord.
The Rolling Stones had larger audiences. They had louder audiences, and they had drugs and things like that that you never found in any of these meetings.
One way, one God, one book, and it's the Holy Bible that will take you to the promised land.
Explo 72 brought together thousands of young people from all over the United States. It was a tremendous sort of a Christian Woodstock. This caught the imagination of some of the press people, that where did all these clean young people come from? It was a tremendous success to call attention to the fact that millions of young people were searching for a purpose and meaning to their lives.
On June 17th, 5 middle-aged men were searching for documents, not a meaning to their lives, when they broke into Democratic National Headquarters in Washington.
1 o'clock that particular night, I discovered that a door had been taped.
Watergate security guard Frank Wills.
I removed that particular tape from the door and made a call to Metropolitan Police Department that someone possibly had broken into the office building complex.
I was in the listening post, which was in the hotel adjacent to the Watergate office building complex where the Democratic National Committee was housed.
E. Howard Hunt organized the break-in at the Watergate building.
Well, I think it was about 1 o'clock in the morning or thereabouts when we could see lights flashing crazily around, and we heard one of the people saying something about some crazy characters up here. They're wearing cowboy hats and boots, and they've got guns. The crazy guys in the cowboy hats and boots turned out to be a group of detectives or policemen from the District of Columbia Police.
We discovered that there were some committee headquarters with gloves and other electronic equipment. They were arrested, carried down to Metropolitan Police Department, and that was the beginning of that particular incident.
The break-in looked like a local story, so the Washington Post assigned 2 local reporters, Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein.
That Saturday, there was a story on the front page of the Washington Post that had a lot of information developed by Bob at the courthouse, a lot of information developed by me through using the telephones, particularly calling down to Miami, which is where some of the burglars were from, and I was able to establish some of their CIA connections. Woodward talked to Howard Hunt because Howard Hunt's name was in a phone book carried by one of the burglars, along with the abbreviation W House, which meant it could be one of 2 things, a White House or a whorehouse.
I didn't much care about it becoming public or not because I didn't think really we'd done anything wrong. I'd spent most of my life abroad doing this very sort of thing for our government, and change of jurisdiction really hadn't registered with me.
Hunt, who had spent more than 20 years in the CIA, had been serving as a special consultant to the White House. One of the burglars, James McCord, was also a former CIA man, and at the time of the break-in was head of security for the committee to re-elect the president. G. Gordon Liddy was another member of the committee to re-elect. He and McCord were fired for not answering questions about the break-in.
Mr. Liddy told me that the instructions to enter the Democratic National Committee headquarters had come from Mr. John Mitchell, who had recently been Attorney General. He was the one who granted monies to Liddy for a series of proposals to do damage to the Democratic Party's prospects in the fall. And I felt that the president knew about it. I didn't know how we could engage in this sort of thing without presidential knowledge.
On July 1st, former Attorney General Mitchell resigned as head of President Nixon's re-election campaign and addressed the Watergate break-in.
Neither the president, obviously, or anybody in the White House, or anybody in authority in any of the committees working for the re-election of the president have any responsibility for it, and therefore there's no reason why it should be a matter of concern to the American public, and it certainly won't hurt the president's re-election.
Because Woodward and I were both local reporters, we didn't know anything about the White House and about the structure of the White House staff. So one of the first things we had to do was find out how it worked. So we got ourselves a list of everybody who worked at the White House and everybody who worked at the Committee for the Re-election of the President. We started finding out, yes, people were trying to cover things up. Yes, there were people who were connected to the White House and the President's Re-election Committee that had something to do with this break-in. They were frightened. They were intimidated. Some of them were shaking. Some people started to cry when we would start to talk about what had happened. And that was the real giveaway that there was something being hidden here that was quite awful.
The position of the White House staff, and certainly that of the Republican National Committee, was to disavow everybody, except that the problem was we weren't disavowable.
Several of the men indicted this afternoon have close ties to the White House or President Nixon's re-election campaign. According to investigators, James McCord, once chief security man for the Republicans, actually bought the bug and ran the spy squad. G. Gordon Liddy, a former White House aide and political money expert, gave McCord at least some of the money to finance the operation. McCord, Liddy, and E. Howard Hunt, another former White House consultant, intercepted many of the Democrats' conversations over a 3-week period.
Well, after the break-in, after the arrests of the 5-man entry team, the activities of the White House Plumbers Unit, the Special Investigations Unit, effectively came to an end. Everybody was running for cover and making special arrangements to save their own skins.
There's always something of the chess match and how politics is played, except that in real chess, all the moves are out in the open. And the real chess match that summer took place when an American upstart named Bobby Fischer put his pieces where his mouth was and took the world title from Boris Spassky and ended Soviet domination in chess. Come back for the next moves in the other game, politics.
Our world will be right back between the lines in the summer of '72.